Hello, I'm Cherie Canning, the founder of Luminate Leadership. I am fascinated about what goes on beneath the surface for human beings, and that's what we're here to explore on this podcast. Welcome to Lead with Courage. Hey, could I ask you a little favor? If you're enjoying the Lead with Courage podcast, could you please go and hit subscribe now? It's a small way you can support the show, and it helps us bring you even more inspiring conversations. Thanks for listening and enjoy today's episode. Welcome to Lead with Courage Season 4. It is absolutely my delight to be back here with you. You may have noticed, if this isn't your first time listening to the podcast, that something seems a little different. I am solo in this episode, and during Season 4, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to have a mixture of our guests that come along to share their stories of how they lead with courage, the lessons they've learned, how you can take their learnings, their inspiration into your everyday and into your leadership. We'll have Andy Canning, my delightful husband, who has been a co-host in seasons 1 and 2 and a couple of times in 3, join me on the couch here at the new site of Gather Balimba. And I will also be showing up in your ears and on your screens for some solo episodes. We are surrounded by incredible leaders, incredible teams and organizations doing the work, and those insights that come out of the group discussions and these patterns of behaviors of what's working in leadership. It's honestly too good to keep to ourselves. So that'll be our solo perspective. Being the beginning of a new season, the question I kept asking myself is, where do we begin? It's been a little while since we've recorded an episode, and I thought it was quite timely to do my own reflections of where things are at, what I've learned, and where we are in business, particularly from a leadership standpoint. So let me share with you my 5 lessons when Luminate Leadership turned 5. I sat down, and as we speak to our leaders in workshops often around the importance of reflection, we're so driven to go for what's next, what's next. And it's so incredibly important to take stock on where are we now? Why are we here? What got us here? And where do we want to go into the future with intent? And so my 5 lessons of leadership over the last 5 years, I wanted to share with you. The first one is that boundaries are a business strategy. It took me a really long time beginning my own business to unlearn the normal day-to-day 9 to 5 mentality. If I'm honest, I probably never really worked 9 to 5. I used to have some big jobs that you'd do a lot of extra time. So hard work, I am not afraid of, as many of you will be the same. But what I did realize when we could create a business and an environment from scratch to whatever is going to suit was to really ask myself, when do I do my best work? When is my creativity alive? How often do I actually need a break, and what kind of breaks do I require to do my best work? Now, I'm very aware of the privileged position when you run your own business to be able to determine that and create that for yourself. But I really encourage anyone in their own work to reflect on the same thing, because within the realm of your expectations in the business you're in, I firmly believe we've really got to create our own working schedules, our working boundaries by design, not by default, not just the way it's always been or what's expected of us or what the cultural norms are. For me personally, I know that I need to carve out intentional space to have my creative ideas flow. I have no issues with coming up with new ideas, but when I'm in the day to day and in front of the email and getting really task based, which is a big part of the job, I know that I lose the opportunity to create meaningful new ideas. So by design, my calendar has really, really evolved. I include 6 weekly breaks. They are non-negotiable. Every 6 weeks, I will have at least a long weekend as an intentional recharge space. 4 days, essentially, sometimes a little bit longer. For me, that is about recharging my energy. I'm seeing them like sprints, as a facilitator and as a speaker, as a coach, a podcast host, all of these roles in my work that I truly love, they require energy output. Of course they do. A lot of energy out. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't give me energy back, because it does, and I truly love it, but it does take energy. So those 6 weekly breaks were absolute non-negotiables for me. And the last couple of years implementing them, I have noticed how easily I'm able to bounce back and recharge in that sprint, recharge, sprint. I'm reminded by beautiful clients we get to work with at the Brisbane Broncos. And I was speaking to their chief of staff at the end of last year, and how it's an essential and normal and accepted part of the athlete's role that they recover, that they absolutely go into rest and recovery as part of their success. And success they did have last year, and hopefully again this year for those Broncos supporters out there. But I digress. We realize that so often in the corporate world, we don't put as much emphasis. So for me, those 6 weekly breaks, also scheduling in creative times, team times, innovation days as a monthly standard, and every 12 weeks having an extended break. Now, that definitely fits with my family and school holidays. I encourage you to think around, what are the boundaries for you? That may not be what you need, but what are the boundaries that you use as a business strategy to do your own recovery, reset, rejuvenate, so you can come in for your next sprint without being so impacted by burnout and exhaustion? It really is our responsibility to create the boundaries that will allow us to do our best work. So I encourage you to reflect on what that is for you. My second reflection from 5 years in business was the importance of being intentional with feedback. Now, feedback is an essential and critical part of leadership and team culture. It's a critical part of customer engagement and success and business growth. Without it, people cannot evolve to the best of their ability due to blind spots and areas that they just don't see through their own biases, their own habits, and it being unconscious and unaware. So I advocate for feedback, and we train it regularly. So what I'm going to say about feedback may actually sound a little controversial. Be selective about where you garner your feedback from. On one hand, I do believe that we can learn anything from anywhere. Every experience is genuinely a learning moment. Every piece of feedback will have something in there that when we approach it with curiosity, we can find some gold. And yet at the same time, this is much easier when you're standing on solid ground, when you're feeling confident, when you're feeling grounded. If we come at feedback from a place of just receiving it from everywhere, searching for validation, searching for certainty, searching for the answers, it can really leave a devastating impact. If I'm honest, and I think back to my early days in running a business, I'd had experiences of running businesses within a big business at my time at Flight Centre. But really, you were backed by a bigger name, and it was a low risk comparatively to going all in on your own business. So that experience was something I'd never truly had before. I remember asking almost everyone for feedback on how to do things. How could we grow? What do we need to do with finances, commercially, pricing, building a client base? There was so much I was asking people on their opinion. What I realized, though, is that those opinions started becoming very distracting. And I heard that quote from Brene Brown that she references from Theodore Roosevelt around being the man in the arena. And it was early on in my time as a founder that I heard that quote, and it really hit a nerve. Are we taking on feedback from the right people? Are we gaining feedback from those who have walked the path, learned the lessons, made the mistakes, and have some really generous sharings with us? Or are we allowing ourselves to listen to feedback from anyone, from the cheap seats? Now, I say this and I feel a little cruel saying, the people from the cheap seats, they've never walked the walk, they've never run their own business. They may not have know anything about learning and development and running a training company, yet I was receiving feedback, probably unsolicited feedback, more than I even realized. And for some time, I would say that it wasn't just distracting. It got me thinking, oh, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And took me into different paths. It wasn't just distracting. I think feedback from the wrong avenues can also disconnect you from what you're setting out to achieve. And now, later in the business, I have mentors. I am in paid coaching programs. I am in women in business growth startup programs. I am paying for speaking coaching. I'm in all the groups and have been and will always be. So I am here for it. And I encourage you to be so aware of who is speaking to you, who is giving you that feedback, and how aligned to the mission are they? Are they truly people in the arena with you? Be aware. Be aware how confident you're feeling. And if we're coming from a place of lack or a lack of confidence, some of those pieces of feedback may actually lead us down the wrong path. So be intentional with the feedback you seek and be intentional with asking for the specificity. Be intentional with who you ask and what you ask the feedback for. A little side note when it comes to receiving feedback, if you're not receiving it from people, it may be an opportunity to reword the question and be more specific and more direct. But it also might be a reflection on how you are receiving the feedback. If somebody's attempted to give you feedback before and it hasn't quite landed, how we receive feedback will often then shape the way that the generosity of feedback will be coming to us in the future. So be aware of your response. And my advice here is always say thank you, even if you don't take it on, even if you don't implement the feedback, be curious, thank them, and intentionally seek out the feedback that you truly desire from those who have walked the path. Number 3, say yes, even when you don't know, and find a way. Recently, we have extended our team with some of our incredible facilitators that are joining us. And I remember the conversation I had with Jasmine, and I said to her, this part of the business is new for us. We're building the plane as we fly it. And that is my way of saying, say yes to opportunity. Say yes to what could be possible, even when you don't have the polished product yet. Done is better than perfect. If I waited until we had the perfect program before we put it out anywhere, if we had the perfect social post before we posted a single thing, if we had the curated photography all lined up for everything we needed before we put a single thing on the website, I'd probably still be waiting to do those first posts and that first website. Say yes, even when you feel you're only almost ready. Backing yourself to find the solutions is a part of that journey. And whether this is you starting in a new business or within an organization where it's about taking on a new role, taking on a new responsibility, a new challenge, my learning and my invitation to you is say yes, even if you're not quite ready. Believe that you can find the way. Number 4 is a lesson I've learned the hard way and in a positive way. And that is to focus if energy are magnetic or graspy. Let's just think about it for a second. Magnetic is putting yourself out to the world, is putting what you have of value to the world, is backing yourself that you have something of impact, something of value that you have to share. When you put it out there, The energetic response is that it attracts and magnetizes people to what you have to offer. It magnetizes people to you, and then they look at what you have to offer. Graspy is when essentially we're desperate, when we're so needy for a sale, when we'll give everything away, when we'll drop our own self-worth, when we'll drop our own commercial rates, or we'll just give ourselves away at the hope that someone will see our value. Now, this is quite nuanced, isn't it, when you're starting something new or you're offering a new product or you're a new brand. It's not about jumping in at the top price. We've sometimes got to earn our price. The discernment here is to recognize the energy behind the actions. So by no means am I saying not to discount or not to give something away for free or not to have an exchange of a value exchange. Sometimes they are absolutely commercially the right decisions to make. Here I'm talking about just giving ourselves away without holding our own power, without seeing our own worth. It's less about a commercial exchange, it's more about the energy behind it. When we're just giving ourselves away out of scarcity rather than abundance and generosity, you'll know it in yourself where the actions are coming from. I love going to Studio Pilates, and they have these great little magnets in their merch there. I've got one on the fridge here in our office, and it just says "Be magnetic," and it's a magnet on the fridge. Very clever, Studio Pilates. Thank you. But it is that reminder that it's the energy we put out there. When we are here and we believe in our value, when we believe in the impact that we can have with our customers, our community, the people around us, our teams, we come from a place of abundance and magnetism versus scarcity and graspiness. Lastly, number 5 lesson for me, your authenticity is your superpower. It's really interesting when we talk about competitors and people say, who are your competitors? Who are you tracking? Who do you compare to? Who could your customers be going to instead of you? And these are really important questions to understand your market. I also feel like sometimes they can distract us from what we're truly here to do. That might be controversial, but that is what I'm learning for myself. It's really good to know what is out there, what the market is asking, the pricing, etc. Being clear on who you are, what you value, what value you bring, your authenticity of your human being is critical to work out before we start thinking about your human doing. Before we start talking about pricing and strategies and product and what we're putting out to the market, understanding and aligning to your own sense of self, your own core values is critical so that we are constantly in an authentic place. Values to me are the anchor when things are going well. It's an energy source to top up from, to give us that energy that we know we're on the right track. And sometimes, just as importantly, or even more importantly, being clear on our values and authentically being in alignment with them is critical at junctures in life where we need to make hard decisions, whether that is within our teams, with our customers, with different points in our life and big decisions. Somebody said to me today a beautiful quote, and thank you to Emma from Jacaranda Finance for sharing this with me. She said, when it comes to being in alignment, you're either in alignment with your life or in a lie with your life. Wow. You are either in alignment with your life or in a lie with your life. How powerful. We're not lying to ourselves because we choose to be dishonest. Sometimes that little voice is lying to ourselves to keep us safe. Often that voice is keeping us small. And when we hear that voice saying, oh, you don't really need to do that, or it's too much, or don't wear that bright top, it's a bit much. Don't post that. People might criticize you. Don't be so vulnerable in sharing that. People might judge you. All of these things, all of this rhetoric that really comes from other people's insecurities. Going back to point 2, be careful and intentional where you get feedback from, right? The 2 points are absolutely aligned. When others are fearful of what we're putting out there, for the judgment it may have, for the criticism it may garner, it really is a reflection of what they value, and it's a reflection of their own fears. When you are clear on who you are, why you believe in what you believe, and you authentically show up this way every single time, that's when we know we're in alignment. And on the days that you don't, you circle back, you repair, and you make different choices next time. We are all human after all. In my next episode, I'm actually going to dive deeper into alignment and the importance of personal values. So do tune in for that, because I can't wait to share some deeper questions and some deeper exploration there. And we've got a really great downloadable as well that I can't wait to share with you. So they, for me, bringing the podcast back for season 4 are my key lessons in leadership over the last 5 years even of leading and running Luminate Leadership. Boundaries are a business strategy. Be intentional with feedback. Say yes and work it out later. Be magnetic versus graspy. And your authenticity is your superpower. I hope there's something in here that's resonated with you today. I hope there's something that's got you thinking around where you can make some simple changes to be in alignment, to really be delivering the best you can as a leader. And I'm going to leave you today on this episode to remind you to live and lead with courage. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. We appreciate you being here. Until next time, go and lead with courage.